Herzlich willkommen bei UrbanGrow, eurem Partner für Studiobau aller Art. Und das sind jetzt wir in unserem neuen Studio. Und als unseren ersten Gast habe ich den lieben Mitch von Premier Tech aus Kanada eingeladen, damit er uns ein bisschen was über dieses Produkt, das sich bei uns seit einiger Zeit zunehmender Beliebtheit erfreut, erzählen mag. Und dann würde ich mal sagen, herzlich willkommen Mitch, und dann kannst du uns ja mal ein paar Sachen über Premier Tech und dich erzählen.
Well, thank you, Sam, for inviting me. I understand this is one of the first show that you're making with this cool concept here. So I'm very pleased of your invitation. Thanks a lot for that.
You're welcome.
You've already introduced me. I'm Mitch from Canada. Moved here in Europe 2 years ago, working with a company, Premier Tech, that produces ProMix, growing media that we produce and we'll be talking about today. But we do have production facilities in Europe, and so that's why I moved here. It was an old dream to come work in Europe. And yeah, so 20 years with the company.
Yeah.
At first I was trained as an ecological technologist. Basically studied ecology and started working shortly after my studies for the guys at ProMix, mainly on mycorrhizal fungi. I think you're going to have questions about that later. But the first job was to work in the lab for mycorrhizal fungi, and year after year, ended up working with clientele from nurseries, agriculture, from the large field crops to vegetable and fruit production to medicinal markets. And yeah, here I am now, pretty much 20 years after, invited by cool Sam for one of his first show in the concept here. Thanks for that.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Das ist also dieser ProMix, und das Geniale, was wir sehr schätzen, beginnt ja schon beim Verpackungsdesign. Das kann man nämlich super praktisch smooth aufreißen. Was man vielleicht schon hätte vorher machen sollen, was ich aber gar nicht tue, um mir mein Studio nicht einzusauen, ist das alles ordentlich unten anzuperforieren. Ein paar der Perforationslöcher sind auch schon angedeutet, damit ihr auch einen vernünftigen Drain habt. Und dann habt ihr hier quasi einen so benutzbaren, fertigen Blumentopf.
Oh, hell
yeah. Thank you very much. Mit einem sehr, sehr, sehr porösen Substrat darin. Und darüber wird uns der liebe Mitch jetzt erklären, worum es sich dabei genau handelt.
Well, already a good intro for the product. The company was originally started by a German family who had moved to New York. We're back in 1923, and they knew the growing media, the peat business here in Europe, and they were among the first one to develop that business in the Americas.
Okay.
Yeah, and since most of the peatlands are in Canada, they moved their operation there in Canada. So yeah, that's how it started. The company is a leader in professional mixes. Whether it's for medicinal or for fruit and vegetable production, flower production even. If you travel across Canada, the United States and further south, you'll see ProMix being used as the professional mix for professional usage. What you see here is a specific version. You said high porosity when you showed it there. That's what the HP stands for. High porosity, and I think it would sound the same in German as well?
Hochporös.
Yeah, okay. So
Oder es ist von hoher Porosität.
So HP would stand pretty well in German as well. So it's a very specific mix where we use only the highest porosity peat fibers. It's a blonde peat that we use. And we'll get into peat later if you want, how we manage the peat bogs and how we make sure it's ecological, as ecologically friendly as it can. So we use blonde peat with the highest porosity. They might not look like the coarsest fiber, but they are the one with the most porosity. Simply because some plants love to have their roots with air where they can breathe. We don't think of it very often, but one of the main ingredients for root development is oxygen or different gases. We think of water, we think, some people may even think of substrate or earth as a anchorage place for the plant, but no, this is actually its home. This is where all of the development will happen, all of the base for the shoot development after that. So some plants, not all, but tropical plants, for instance, love to have high porosity, a lot of oxygen at their root level. So that's why we use the highest porosity blonde peat. But even to boost this up a little bit, and maybe if we can tilt the bag a little bit and show it, I don't know if our staff can see this here, we do add a lot of perlite, these little funny white things here. They look like styrofoam, things
but
like
it
that.
is not. Customers think, but it is not.
No, it is not. It's actually a rock that has been expanded. When you take these rocks from the mine, you expose it to intense heat, and they pop like popcorn. So it's very, very, very light, and we use nearly 30% of the mix, again, to boost up the air content, the porosity. So it makes it a very specific recipe for certain type of plants. On top of that, we do put a little bit of fertilizer. Hope I'm not going too fast here. We put just enough for a starter. So in the industry, people know.
Ihr kennt das. Ihr kennt Light-Mixe und Grow-Mixe. Das fällt da ein klein bisschen raus.
So very light, it has enough fertilizer to sustain the plant development for the first 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. Many people start fertilizing right away.
And it's no problem, because it's no over-fertilizing, because it's just start components and not a real NPK combination.
It's not a high boost fertilizer that's in it. It's a light start fertilizer, so it's okay if someone would start fertilizing right away. Just follow your normal recommendation. That's why people come to see you. I'm not going to go too much into fertilizer because you have many approaches, but I think any of the recipe or programs you're going to recommend to your clientele will be just fine. A very simple recipe. It's a light mix, actually a very light mix in terms of its fertilizer content, but light in terms of even its weight.
My arms love it.
There's so much porosity in it that one of the main ingredients is air. It sounds bizarre to say, but that's what you want for your plants.
Good air.
It's good, it's good. It's good air. I like that. Although it's a light mix, it is very well charged up with active ingredients, living organisms that we produce. We add in this particular recipe mycorrhiza and bacillus. Mycorrhiza, we've been producing them for over 40 years now. We're probably among the top companies in terms of production capacity of endomycorrhizal fungi. Sound a little technical, but the specific type of mycorrhizal fungi that you need for your plant that will actually work with over 80% of plants on Earth. We reproduce them, so we control that aspect. They're grown organically. That's good to know as well.
Yeah.
There's no Frankenstein stories to tell about ProMix. We grow the mycorrhizal fungi, so it's accepted in the organic production, because we sell them also for vegetable production, for field crops, grains, maybe some of the beer that you drink, the cereal was grown with some of our mycorrhizal fungi. Potatoes in Germany, a lot of them are grown with this very, very same mycorrhiza from us.
So I ate something of your product.
Yeah, well, yeah, it helps, and we can go further detail about mycorrhizal fungi after, but there's very, very good reasons why we included them, and we've worked so hard in the past 40 years to develop ways to reproduce them and develop a technique to incorporate them in the soil without having them to germinate.
Yeah.
Because usually a mycorrhizal fungi, it's the spores that we put into them, and as soon as you have enough, just like seeds, enough water, humidity, and good temperature, it all starts germinating. So there are ways to bring the spores in the bag so it stays dormant or latent for a long enough period. And more recently, I would say about 12 years ago, we started incorporating bacillus bacteria to the mix. They do little wonder when they work in combination with mycorrhizal fungi.
Yeah.
You could use bacillus bacteria directly in the mix without mycorrhiza. It would do a certain job, but when you couple them with mycorrhizal fungi, it really starts to do wonder.
Entourage.
Yeah, well, it's kind of, we're not creating or inventing very much. It's a lot of that occurs in nature.
Yeah.
If you look at, I believe it's 97% of plants on Earth associate naturally with mycorrhizal fungi, and they actually were responsible for aquatic plant to migrate on the dry surface of the earth. So still today, great majority of plants in nature associate with mycorrhizal fungi, and the next partner that comes with mycorrhizal fungi in nature are bacterias.
Yeah.
Thousands of bacteria, millions of bacteria, but some specific one do some specific job. We're looking at biostimulation.
Yeah.
There's more to it, but the main thing is biostimulation, and that's why we get them to work together in the bag. The idea is to, for us, for ProMix, being a leader in professional mixes, we could produce all kind of mixes from the very, very low cost to extremely high cost that nobody would buy. The idea is to find like a good match where someone, especially professional growers, want to maximize their return on investment.
Yeah.
Many think in terms when they grow like many plants, they want to make sure that every euros they put on the table brings back so much. So the whole idea is choosing the ingredients that would bring as much return and favor plant development, genetic expression. We don't talk much about that, but it's a topic you could I'm sure you could make a full show or maybe a series on.
I'm seeing more shows coming.
Yeah, okay, there'll be more.
Things to I'm seeing more.
I'm
more
seeding
shows coming.
things to be invited again in the future. So the whole idea of the mix, the basic of any plant growing, for us is making sure that for specific plants we have a specific ingredient that we can control over the many batches that we make and over time as well. We need to make sure that the quality is very consistent through time. So that's why we like to control how we source the different ingredients. The peat has to come from either our own operation or here in Europe, operations that we know how they operate and that we can select the grade and we make sure they're properly managed as well.
Yeah.
We have to be careful with peat bogs. It's a good thing that people are looking at that now. There's a time where people use peat for all kinds of things, for heating their homes and doing animal litters, and so we don't do that anymore. It's much more respectful, but we like to control that aspect. Same thing with the perlite.
Yeah.
You can get very low cost perlite that won't do a great job. We need to control that, and the main one, mycorrhiza and bacillus, those were very important for us, that if we reproduce microorganism, we need to control that aspect to make sure we have the quality we're looking for.
So, Mitch, thanks you for being here and for this very interesting talk about substrates and mushrooms and substrates, and I think we will have much more talks in future.
I'm thankful. Thank you for the invitation. Very first show in the concept like this. I'm loving it.
Nice.
There's a lot we could talk about, from ingredients, technique, and everything. But we'll keep it in that format. And yeah, come to UrbanGrow Düsseldorf. Honestly, I've known you for quite a while now, and it's a great shop. Super cool team. Fantastic place to come. So yeah, come and visit. And thanks again.
Das ist in etwa das, was ich jetzt auch gesagt hätte. Kommt zu uns in den Laden. Wenn ihr noch irgendwelche Fragen dazu habt, wenn ihr Fragen an Mitch habt, wenn ihr Fragen über Promix habt, wenn ihr Fragen an uns habt, taucht sie doch einfach unten in die Kommentare. Mal bis zum nächsten Mal hier, auf welchem immer Social Media Kanal ihr das verfolgt. Dankeschön.
Tschüss.